Welcome to the shadows, where every story hides a secret, every mystery has no answer, and the darkness is waiting for you. We pitched camp far away from the grove. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak and snap of the forest sounded like footsteps. I kept watching the fire, and as the flames twisted and turned, I saw shapes in them. Hungry, gnarled faces peering at me from the darkness beyond the light. By morning, my unease had turned into full-blown fear. I wanted to run. But then Rohan found thing. Scratched into the trunk of a tree near our camp was an inscription. It looked old, very old. It was a warning. He read it aloud. Beware the hunger of the earth. Turn back before your bones become its feast. Great, just what I needed to hear. To turn back would be to admit defeat, so instead we pressed on. And soon we were standing in the petrified remains of the long-dead forest, surrounded by skeletons of trees locked in an eternal embrace. At the center stood the banyan tree, silent and watchful. The air here felt different, colder, charged with an energy that made the hair on my arms stand on end. As we stepped into the grove, the forest floor crumbled beneath us. We slid down into a pit, and there, at the bottom, spread out before us like a carpet, were the bones of many animals and a few human skulls. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw it. A single green shoot pushing through the dirt, a single defiant leaf unfurling in the dead air. It was a vine, but it didn't belong to this grove. It snaked down from above, past the withered branches, and disappeared into the shadows. We followed it, then cursed because it was leading us into a maze of roots, but I kept going. Because somewhere deep inside, I knew there was something alive. The air grew colder, the silence deeper, and then we emerged into a cavern. Moss covered the walls, and a crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, sparkling with trapped sunlight. In the middle, bathed in the ethereal glow, sat a stone altar, and upon it lay an ornately carved wooden box. This must have been the shrine the legend spoke of, but whatever treasure it held was not what we found most disturbing. From the back of the cavern came a whisper, a sound like wind through dry leaves. So the children of man have found their way back. It was coming from the wall. The leaves rustled again, louder this time. It has been a long season. You will serve well as nourishment. The leaves parted, revealing a pair of glowing eyes, cold and reptilian. Then it moved, slithering forward, its scales catching the light. It was the guardian of this place, the spirit of the grove, the Yaksha. It moved closer, and its gaze bored into us, cold and predatory. I am Kubra, it hissed, its voice like shards of ice. And this is my domain. You trespassers have disturbed my slumber. Now you shall pay the price. We had stumbled into something ancient and malevolent. Our screams echoed through the cavern as we scattered, each of us desperate to escape the clutches of the awakened Yaksha. Rohan tried to scramble up the cavern wall, but the creature was too quick. It lunged, its claws raking down his arm, sending him tumbling back down. Blood welled from the gash in his side. Ben fumbled with his equipment, trying to get the drone up and out, but it was too late. The Yaksha was upon him, its jaws wide and dripping. The last thing he saw was the glint of its eyes, two cold stars in the cavern's gloom. I remember thinking that this was it. Our greed had brought us to this, our hubris taken us to the gates of hell. The Yaksha turned its baleful gaze on me. Fear paralyzed me, rooted me to the spot. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. All I could do was watch as it approached, its every step vibrating with an ancient power. Its hot, fetid breath washed over me, reeking of decay and ages past. The stench of death clung to it like a shroud. I braced for the end, certain that my fate was as gruesome as those skulls lying in the pit, but the Yaksha did not strike. Instead, it lowered its head, its nostrils flaring as it sniffed me, taking stock of me like a hunter sizing up his prey. It was sizing me up. Then it spoke, its voice a sibilant hiss. "So you're the cartographer?" You seek to map the labyrinthine paths of my domain. Its eyes glittered with amusement. Very well. I shall offer you a choice. Serve me, and I shall grant you safe passage from my domain. Refuse, and I shall feed your bones to the hungry earth. The creature leaned closer, its hot breath washing over me again. And I saw not just malice in its eyes, but something else, something akin to curiosity. It was toying with me. It found amusement in my terror. My mind raced. Serve it. What did it want from me? Could I bargain with this creature? Or would refusing simply mean a gruesome death? Before I could answer, the Yaksha withdrew, melting back into the foliage. Only its words echoed in the cavern. Your answer awaits at the heart of the maze. Then it was gone. Silence descended, broken only by my ragged breaths. I turned to Maya, desperation edging into my voice. What do we do? She stared at the spot where the Yaksha had vanished, her face pale. There's only one way to survive this place, she whispered. Find the key to the grove before the Yaksha finds you. Her voice was tight with tension. The key, she continued, is knowledge. We need to understand this place, appease the spirits within it. It was a daunting task, but our only hope. We had 3 days before the next full moon when the Yaksha would return to claim her answer. 3 days to explore this grove, to learn its secrets and discover a way to survive. The clock was ticking. As the moon climbed higher, casting eerie shadows through the grove, we set about our grim task. Using the ancient map, I began charting the labyrinthine route paths, hoping to find some pattern to this madness. Meanwhile, Maya delved into the lore of the Yakshas, seeking any ritual or incantation that might placate such a being. Then, bless his soul, tried everything from holy water to sage, hoping to cleanse the air of whatever evil lingered here. But as night fell and the forest grew darker, it became clear that none of us were prepared for what awaited us. Section 2. The Ritual. Within the twisting paths of the grove, we faced trials both physical and psychological. The Yaksha had laid a gauntlet before us, testing our resolve, our courage, and our sanity. Roots snagged at our feet, trying to trip us. Whispers seemed to slither through the trees, taunting, misleading. And then there were the visions. Each of us saw them, fragments of memories, dreams, or nightmares. They flickered through the corners of our eyes, trying to pull us into their maelstrom, but we resisted. We clung to reality, to the tasks at hand. Time was short. The deadline loomed, and we were running out of options. Finally, after what felt like days but was probably hours, I found something. Hidden beneath the gnarled roots was a small indentation, barely noticeable. I ran my fingers over it, feeling a faint vibration. I pressed harder, and the stone gave way, revealing a narrow tunnel. I crawled through, finding a staircase that spiraled down into the earth. At the bottom, in the flickering light of my headlamp, I saw a door. Etched into it was the same symbol I'd seen on the box in the cavern. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The chamber was circular, the walls adorned with intricate carvings depicting scenes from a forgotten past. But what truly caught my eye was the centerpiece, an altar constructed from a single slab of black marble. On it rested a silver incense burner shaped like a miniature banyan tree. An inscription circled the base. Light the flame of wisdom and banish the shadows of ignorance. I lit the incense, filling the chamber with sweet smoke. Then I noticed something strange. The air shimmered, and from the swirling mist emerged a figure. It was a Yaksha, smaller than the one I'd seen before, yet no less imposing. So the seeker has arrived, it rasped, its voice echoing oddly in the chamber. I am the Whisperer. What is it you seek? I hesitated, surprised by the change in tone. Was this friendly? I seek knowledge, I replied cautiously. Knowledge of this place, of the grove, of the ritual that binds it. The Whisperer regarded me for a moment, its gaze intense. Very well, I finally spoke, but knowledge comes at a price. With that, the floor rumbled, and the chamber began to fill with water, rising slowly, inexorably. Hey, it's me here. Welcome back. And today we are back in the jungle. Let's finish this story. Section 4. Flight ashen shadows, the whispers rose to screams, and the presence crashed through the tree line. I remember thinking running is pointless. There's nowhere to go. But then we bolted, diving between the trees, hacking at vines that tried to snag us. We were moving because of the sheer terror in our limbs, legs pumping, lungs burning, adrenaline roaring in our ears. But behind us, the laughter followed. It echoed through the trees. It was closer than we were. The jungle opened up again. We burst into a clearing and froze. Beneath the banyan tree, the copper plates were lying on the ground, half buried in dirt. The fire was out, just a pile of ash and white flowers scattered around. There was nothing there. Where the thing had been, where the smoke had been, nothing. We stared at each other, faces slick with sweat and dirt, chests heaving. Had we imagined it? Was the ritual just a prank, some trick of the jungle? Ben shook his head, eyes haunted. No, he mouthed, it's real. Behind us, the laughter sounded again, closer. Then we saw it. Something stirred beneath the banyan roots, a long, dark shape, twisted and stretched. Its edges seemed to be melting, reforming. It was like watching smoke solidify. Two burning coals pried themselves free and floated above the ground. They came toward us, spiraling. Then a third joined them, spinning faster and faster until it looked like a wheel made of fire. The three formed a triangle, hovering just above the ground, pulsing, breathing. And in the middle, 2 points of light coalesced into one. An eye. It swiveled toward us, cold and black and bottomless. From the eye, tendrils of smoke drifted out, writhing and twisting, taking shape. Limbs sprouted. First 2 arms, knobby fingers tipped with wicked claws. Then legs, ending in feet that scraped along the ground, leaving black scorch marks. The creature stepped forward and raised its head. Its face, if you could call it that, was a mass of shifting shadows, features melting and reforming, never settling. Its mouth twisted into a grotesque parody of a smile. It beckoned with a finger. Come on, it hissed. Come and join the party. But it wasn't inviting us to celebrate. I knew what that gesture meant. It wanted us to come to the banyan, to it, and I could see why. The ritual circle, the offering, the summoning, it had drawn power from all of it. But it wasn't done yet. The show wasn't over. The fun had just begun. The creature lashed out, sending a bolt of fire streaking toward Ben. He didn't move. He couldn't move. He stood frozen with fear, eyes wide and blank. The fire hit him and he exploded into flames. Not literally, not yet. Instead, the flames wrapped around him, wove through his limbs, slid under his clothes. He screamed, thrashing wildly, trying to beat them out. But the flames just clung tighter, hotter, hungrier. Ben crumpled to the ground, hands over his face, sobbing, calling for help. And while we watched, utterly helpless, those flames became a shroud, a burning, twisting cage that sealed him inside. When it was done, nothing was left but ashes and a charred skull. I stared at the bone in my hands, my fingers smeared with Ben's brains and blood. The creature tilted its head, the fire in its eye burning brighter. Now it was grinning, baring rows of razor-sharp teeth. It gestured toward me with one finger, then turned and lumbered toward the others. They looked like they were carved from wood, their bodies moss-covered and gnarled. But they moved like smoke, fluid, unpredictable. Like their companion, their limbs writhed and twisted, breaking and reforming, always changing. One of them stopped in front of Maya, who'd fallen to her knees. She'd already lost her bag in the scuffle, and now she was scrambling for the backpack, hands shaking, eyes wild. She was mumbling something, but I couldn't hear it over the creature's laughter. It was loud, echoing, and cruel. Then the creature struck. It moved fast, too fast. All I saw was Maya's hand shoot out and a flash of teeth. She cried out. I ran to her and shoved her out of the way. The creature had lunged for her throat, but instead its claws found my arm. Pain seared through me, hot and sharp and searing. I yanked back, staring at the raking lines marring my skin. The creature was inches from me, chest heaving, eyes glowing red. I could see the heat waves distorting the air around it. It opened its mouth and spat. A stream of fire hit my leg and I crumpled to the ground. The forest was silent except for the crackling flames. I looked down at my scorched leg and started to scream. I clawed at the burn, my nails digging into the dead flesh. It felt like the wound was sucking the life out of me, draining me of my strength, of my warmth. I could see the creature reflected in my pain, grinning, triumphant, alive. It leaned in, the smell of smoke and decay filling my nostrils. It hissed in my ear, the fire in its eyes burning away my humanity. It whispered, "Do you want to play a game?" I could feel my vision blurring. The jungle faded to black. And then I woke up. Section 5. Ashes and embers. I woke up coughing, choking on dirt and leaves. My arm and leg throbbed with a dull ache, but they were intact. My fingers flexed, curling and uncurling. I pushed myself up and staggered back, my gaze frantically searching the trees. Maya and Ben, they were gone. And then I saw them, or what was left of them. Their backpacks lay abandoned near the banyan, the offering flowers wilted and gray. Ben's skull was cracked clean in half, exposed to the sky. Beside it, Maya's diary lay open, pages fluttering in the breeze. I forced myself to look away. That was only half the picture. The ritual hadn't just taken Maya and Ben. It had changed me, twisted me. I could feel it under my skin, a dark, hungry echo of whatever that thing was. I touched my chest, feeling for the brand it had seared onto me, marking me as its own. I was different somehow, colder. My breath hitched as I realized what it was, what I'd become. The hunger. There was a hollowness inside me now, a constant gnawing, driving me, consuming me. And all I could think about was fire. It started small, just a flicker at the edge of my vision, but then it grew. I saw roaring infernos, licking flames that reached for the sky. I smelled the tang of wood smoke and felt the comforting crackle of burning branches. Fire became my obsession. I spent days gathering dry tinder and fallen logs, piling them up beneath the banyan. I cut down branches, wove them into a pyre. I arranged and rearranged stones, building a fire pit. It was all I could think about, all I could feel. And then I waited. Waited for what? I didn't know. For the whispers to start again. For the creature to claim me entirely. I was done running, done hiding. I wasn't afraid anymore. What I felt in my bones was stronger than fear. It was power. It was purpose. I was ready to burn away everything. To burn myself, but the jungle had other plans. One night, a storm rolled in, winds tearing through the trees, rain slashing down in sheets. I huddled beneath the banyan, the fire pit turning into a mud pit. Thunder cracked overhead. Lightning split the sky. And somewhere in the distance, far off and faint, I heard a rumble that sounded like laughter. A slow, mocking, cruel laughter. And then it stopped. The next morning, when the sun finally broke through the clouds, I got up, shook the dirt off my clothes, and walked away from the banyan. I didn't look back. I never looked back. Some things are better left undisturbed. Some doors are best left unopened. Sometimes legends are just stories. But sometimes, just sometimes, they're warnings. And I learned that lesson the hard way. The end. Thank you for listening, and thanks to our supporters for helping us make these creepypastas possible. If you like scary stories, stay tuned for more. And if you have a story of your own you want to share, use the link below to submit it. Who knows? Your story could be the next one we animate. Thanks for listening. Bye. Once upon a time, there was a village where everyone worked hard. They grew crops, raised cattle, hunted pigs. They ate plain food and wore simple clothes. The men and women of the village loved each other. They cared for the sick, helped raise each other's children. They also honored the spirits of the land. That's why every year they held festivals under the Bodhi tree, celebrating nature's bounty and asking for protection. But there were outsiders who didn't share the villagers' values. People from neighboring lands would come to mock their customs and question their devotion to the gods. Why don't you worship one true God? They would demand. Or why don't you pray at grand temples instead of these silly festivals? Slowly, doubt began to grow in the villagers' hearts. Could there be something better than what they'd been doing for generations? Maybe worshiping one god would bring them more blessings, or maybe praying at temples would make their lives easier. One day, 4 outsiders entered the village. These 4 people looked different. They wore finer clothes and carried strange accessories. Most importantly, they seemed confident, powerful, successful. After hearing their stories, the villagers became convinced. They agreed to abandon their traditions and start worshiping the 4 newcomers' god. Each week, they brought richer offerings, hoping for greater rewards. Then one day, heavy rains flooded the river. The rising waters threatened to destroy the village. Worried, the villagers asked the outsiders for help, but they were told, "Your shrines aren't grand enough. Your prayers aren't heartfelt enough. You need to do more." Overwhelmed with fear and guilt, the villagers pledged to build a magnificent temple for the 4. They would use the finest materials and invite priests from far away. The construction would take months, but they were desperate. In the meantime, the 4 stayed in the village. They explored the woods and eventually discovered a clearing with a gigantic banyan tree. Its branches covered acres of land and its roots reached far into the ground. When the outsiders shared this discovery with the villagers, they proclaimed, "This tree is special. Here is where you will build your new shrine. Here is where you will show us your devotion." And so the entire village worked day and night to prepare the site. They built a huge temple complex around the banyan tree, complete with towers, shrines, bells, statues, everything they believed would please their gods. But when the 4 saw the finished product, they shook their heads. "You call this grand? Where are the precious gemstones? Where are the golden statues? Where is your tribute to the spirits of the land?" To make matters worse, the rainy season continued for weeks. The river overflowed, destroying homes and fields. Many villagers died. Hungry, angry, and hopeless, they turned to the 4, who offered a solution. "We will help you, but you must make the ultimate sacrifice. You must give us the heart of the grove itself. Go to the center of the banyan tree and dig 3 cubits into the ground. Take out the largest root you find, give it to us, and we will restore balance to the world." No one wanted to obey, but they were desperate. So they chose 4 strong men to carry out the ritual. Each took a shovel and started digging. It was hard work, but after hours of effort, they felt something solid. Panting, they brushed away the dirt to reveal a massive root. It was thicker than a man's waist. Without hesitation, they cut it off and carried it to the 4. As the root was placed before them, the ground trembled. The men felt weak and dizzy. Was this the heart of the tree? Was this what they were sacrificing? Suddenly, the root started to glow. It emitted a blinding light that revealed a horrifying truth. The root wasn't just a root, it was a face. It was a face contorted in rage and sorrow, surrounded by more faces, hundreds of faces, all screaming in pain. The 4 watched in fascination, but the villagers knew exactly what they were looking at. It was the guardian of the grove, the Yaksha. For generations, the villagers had respected the Yaksha and offered gifts of flowers and fruits. But now they wanted to destroy it. As the Yaksha struggled, the 4 approached, reaching out to touch its face. "Stop," cried the villagers, but it was too late. As the first outsider touched the Yaksha, the ground rumbled. Cracks appeared on the ground, splitting the earth. Vines shot out of the soil, wrapping around the four. They screamed as they were pulled underground. Before long, the villagers felt another presence rise in their midst. The air grew colder. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying a voice that echoed with ancient power. "You dare disturb my peace? You dare destroy my home?" The voice boomed, shaking the very foundations of the earth. "You will regret this." Slowly, the earth before them rippled like water in the wind. The villagers watched in horror as the shimmering distortion solidified. It wasn't some giant monster. It was worse. It looked like one of us. Its shape flickered, melting between Rohan, Maya, Ben, and me. A perfect, silent copy. Then it settled on a form that was a horrifying mashup of all four of us, and it spoke. Its voice was a nightmare mix of the whispers, the grinding stone, and our own voices twisted together. "You seek the wealth of the earth," it boomed, the sound coming from everywhere at once. "The roots hold the jewels, the soil holds the gold. It is all here, but the earth does not give, it only trades." "What do you want?" Rohan demanded, trying to sound brave. The creature's head tilted, its mismatched eyes locking onto him. "A guardian requires a price. A ritual demands a sacrifice. A life for a lifetime of riches. One of you must be given to the grove. One of you must stay with me forever. Only then will I reveal the treasure." I remember reading about the Yaksha Prashna in the old texts, where a spirit tests the king's wisdom with riddles. This was a disgusting perversion of that. Not a test of wisdom, but of how quickly our humanity would crumble. The Yaksha gave us 1 hour to choose who to sacrifice. If we couldn't choose, it would take us all. The next hour was hell. Alliances formed and fell apart in seconds. We screamed at each other, our friendship dissolving in the acid of our fear. Rohan, lost in his obsession, was ready to sacrifice anyone. Ben, terrified, argued that Rohan's greed got us into this, so he should be the one to pay. In the end, it was Maya who made the choice, not with a word, but with an action. With a desperate scream, she shoved Ben toward the banyan tree. He stumbled and fell at the base of the trunk. Before any of us could even move, the tree's roots came alive. They weren't wood anymore. They were thick, fleshy tendrils that wrapped around Ben's arms and legs, pulling him down into the ground. He didn't even have time to scream. The earth just swallowed him, leaving nothing behind. The silence that followed was broken by a deep hum. A piece of the ground in front of us split open, revealing a cavern glittering with more gold and gems than I had ever imagined possible. The Yaksha had kept its promise. Conclusion: Rohan took a step toward the cavern, his face a mask of insane awe. But Maya, shattered by what she'd done, just let out this horrible, grief-stricken wail and ran, vanishing into the jungle. I don't know what happened to her. I never saw her again. I was frozen. I stared at the glittering treasure and then at Rohan. His obsession had cost us everything. As he knelt to finally touch the gold, the Yaksha's form appeared behind him. It wasn't mimicking us anymore. Now it was a towering, shadowy warrior. It put a hand on Rohan's shoulder. He looked up, his face filled with pure terror, and then he just faded, turned to dust that settled over the gold he wanted so badly. And then it was just me. I didn't take a single coin. I just ran. I ran for days, fueled by nothing but sheer terror. To this day, I don't know how I made it out of those hills. Sometimes I think the Yaksha let me go to be a warning, a living reminder of its power. So if you ever hear stories about hidden treasure and their ancient guardians, remember me. Remember that some doors are meant to stay closed, and that the price of greed is always paid in souls. If this story left you feeling unsettled, please like and subscribe for more tales of folklore and rituals gone wrong. And tell me in the comments, What do you think is the most terrifying mythical creature? The mystery never ends. It only waits for the next chapter. If you survived this story, subscribe now and step deeper into the unknown. Tell us in the comments what's the scariest mystery you've ever heard. Until then, stay in the shadows. This channel is dedicated to the weird, the wild, and the unexplained. We bring you the creepiest pasta, the freakiest forwards, and the most terrifying true stories. So if you like your mysteries with a side of horror, subscribe now and join our community of shadow lovers. Every day on this channel, we tell you scary stories that will raise your pulse and haunt your dreams. And if that's not enough, we also make sure that you get all the creepy pastas that you can handle. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe now and let the nightmares begin.